Let's practice pails and rails for the ankle. This is going to be really important in developing ankle mobility. Now, before you do pails and rails here, it would be useful to work on cars for the ankle, which is controlled articular rotations for the ankle, which is essentially circles that you make, but they're really intentional circles. And then we can progress to pails and rails, which are basically isometric contractions of the muscles in and around the ankle on both sides of the joint. So we're trying to lengthen, where basically it's going to look like this, is you find yourself in sort of a lunge, lean forward and drive some weight into the balls of the feet, and then we fire up the muscles on the back side of the ankle. So the calves, which are oftentimes very tight in people, and so we're lengthening, we're stretching those tissues and contracting them at the same time, okay? And then from there, what you do is you try to lift off. So you try to lift the foot off, and that would be a rails contraction where you strengthen the muscles that actually pull you into the position. So we lengthen tissues on the back, stretch them, and then fire them up so they get really strong in a long position. And that tricks your brain into allowing those muscles to be longer, essentially. And then on the other side, we fire up the muscles that pull us into the position. So we're gaining full control over our end range position, and then our body is more willing to adapt to that position over time. Okay, if we don't earn it, then we won't really have that mobility, and if we force it in another way, it probably won't go very well for us. So let's try this. Let's do the right side first. So we'll take the right side forward, and we're not actually going to go out into a really long lunge, because if I'm out here, if I actually fire up my calf, I can lift my heel off of the ground. So I'm not able to put enough weight into it. So I actually want to have a really short lunge here, so much that if I drive my knee forward and put a stretch on the calf, I might even be able to lift the back knee. This way, if I drive into the balls of the feet, I have a harder time lifting the heel. So essentially, you put as much weight into the balls of the feet as you can and try to lift the heel, essentially from there, but don't actually lift the heel. Put as much, fire up the gas pedal, push on the gas pedal as much as you possibly can without lifting the heel. And then we just hang out here, okay? So actually pause. So that's what we're working towards. Now, I kind of jumped into that because with the ankle, usually this isn't a problem. Some positions of pails and rails, like with the shoulder joint, you really need to ease yourself into it. But let's just get used to this with the ankle here and do this properly. So the first step is that you're doing a passive stretch of the tissues. So we get into this end range position, and we just hold here. So by now we've been holding probably for about 30 seconds, and I want to hold for another 30 seconds, okay? So we really just want to allow these tissues to get used to this end range position, stretch out, get some ligamentous creep, that kind of stuff, and get the muscles to get neurologically inhibited. And that allows us access to our full range of motion. And that's where we start to do the work of the pails and the rails. By the way, I'm talking right now instead of having you do work, because I'm trying to intentionally eat up time for a passive stretch, okay? Sometimes this work is just frankly boring as hell. And so, I want to teach you why we're doing it so that you don't get bored and give it up, frankly. So if we're here and we take time to eventually teach these cells through end range isometric contractions that this is the direction we want these tissues to go, then those tissues will physically remodel because of Davis's law of fascia, where fascia remodels along lines of stress. So we got to teach it. We got to communicate to your DNA what we're trying to accomplish. And the only language that it speaks is force. So we give it force, and it's just time under tension at that point. So the more time you can accumulate here, the better off you're going to be. So now that we've been here a good at least a minute, now we can start the work of the pails and the rails. So without actually lifting the heel, we try to put as much of our body weight into the foot as we can and press down into the balls of the feet and the toes, okay? So push down through the big toe mound and fire up these muscles on the back side of the calf, as well as the deeper muscles in there, like tibialis posterior, that kind of stuff. So fire them up. Keep the stretch though. Don't back off the stretch. Just fire it up as much as you can without lifting the heel. Now we want to ramp it up, right? So we want to start firing it up a little bit and then a little bit more and a little bit more and ramp it up to 100%. Now I wouldn't do that if this was another joint. Please don't apply the same logic to every joint. This is not how you always do pails and rails. This is how I'm doing it with the ankle, because the ankle tends to not get pissed off when you ramp it up to 100% contraction, okay? So we can ramp it up to 100% contraction. So really push as hard as you can into the floor. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. Maybe you gained a little bit of range of motion. Now we're going to do the opposite. Rails, which is a regressive angular isometric load, which is contracting the front stuff, right? The tibialis anterior, that kind of stuff, or the extensors, the toes. Those muscles on the front side of the ankle joint are what lift the foot off of the floor. So if you were trying to lift the foot off of the floor, you know, I actually have to back off of the stretch in order to physically lift my foot off the floor. What I want you to do is only back off the stretch enough that you start to feel that maybe somebody could slide a playing card underneath the balls of the feet, okay? So you back off just a little bit and try to hover the foot off of the floor just a little bit. You should feel the muscles on the front side of the shin firing up, maybe even cramping. So 100% contraction, go. 10, 9, try as hard as you can. 8, 7, if it starts cramping, you can back off the stretch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, relax. Sink a little deeper into a stretch. And you could repeat this. Generally, with ankles, this doesn't tend to piss people's ankles off if they do multiple sets in a row. You could do another set if you wanted to. But let's do the other side. So I want you to take your left foot and find the same position with the left foot. And let's just sink into a bit of a passive stretch here. So basically all you're doing is pointing the toes forward and then driving the knee forward as far as it'll go. And then we just wait. So we got to just have some time in a passive stretch here. Okay. So you can even draw the knee in a little bit and really just kind of like hone in on this foot. So we're eating up time because the first neurological barrier to flexibility is the stretch reflex, which is your muscle spindles. And again, I'm talking away right now because we need to just hang out here in a passive stretch. And time is what communicates to your cells. So what's happening right now is that we're trying to blow past the muscle spindle reflex. There's a reflex that when your muscle gets stretched, it tenses up, okay? So we're trying to blow past that reflex and then maybe even get some tension into the tendons so that we get the Golgi tendon reflex, which is the opposite. It forces the muscles to actually relax. So we're just trying to gently ease our way into that passive stretch. If this hurts at all, stop pushing so far, okay? This is not a no pain, no gain scenario, okay? So I like my knee up here, but I'm gonna move my knee so you can actually see my foot, okay? Just so you know. I like it here because I can put more weight into my ankle. I can really drive it forward, but I'm gonna move it back so you can see it, okay? So here we are. Now what we're gonna do is, now that we've been stretching for a sufficient period of time, I want to push on the gas pedal. So we're gonna slowly ramp it up. You push the foot down, the balls of the feet down into the floor. So right here at the end of the feet, you start to push it down to the floor without lifting the heel up off of the floor. Put as much weight over, like of your body weight physically, over your left knee as you can so that it prevents the heel from lifting up as we ramp up that contraction. So push down into the balls of the feet with some of your force and then start to really load it up and give it a little bit more, like 10, 20, 30% effort, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, maybe 100% of your maximum, as long as it's comfortable, okay? I would never do this in the shoulder joint or the hip joint. I would never ramp it up so fast in those joints. Ankles don't seem to be bothered by it. But if it bothers your ankles, then please don't be so forceful. Here we are, push, 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 push. 100% contraction, 10, 9, fire up your calves, 8, 7, push the toes into the floor, 5, 4, 3, I think I skipped 6. So 3, 2, 1, relax. And then we try to go the opposite direction. We try to lift the foot off of the floor. It's not gonna go anywhere, but maybe you back off the stretch a little bit just so that the balls of the feet can become light. It's not gonna go anywhere, but you try to lift the toes and the balls of the feet off of the floor. So 100%, that's a rails contraction. If it hurts or cramps, you can back off a little bit, but we're gonna go 100 right away. So here we go, ramp it up, use all of your effort, try to lift the foot off the floor, 10, 9, 8, 7 if it cramps, back off, 6 if it hurts, back off, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, relax, sink into the stretch. Okay, now you could hang out here and you could do multiple sets, or you could alternate between sides, but that's it. That's ankle pails and rails for dorsiflexion. And this is going to be really important if you're trying to work on your deep squats or your ankle mobility in general for even just a normal squat, or for any other reason. This is a great way to gain full control over your range of motion by lengthening the tissues that get stretched and getting them strong in a stretched position, and then strengthening the muscles that get short and getting them strong in a short position, and then neurologically teaching your body that that's okay, so we don't have a neurological reflex stopping us from stretching into that position. And then the more time that we accumulate in that position over time, we communicate to the DNA of the fascia, the ligaments, the capsules, that kind of thing, and physically they remodel the tissue if you do this enough over enough time, but you have to just dedicate time to it. And that's the only way it's going to change physically and actually create real structural change. That just takes a hell of a lot of time under tension in the position you want to achieve. Okay? Thanks for watching. Peace.